find you. God only knows how to break through. God only knows.
You're on mute.
Well, evidently you on Instagram was hearing me. Hi, good morning, everybody. Welcome to episode 1497. It is an incredible day of curious consciousness. For those of you that are any weather buffs, if you're paying attention to the weather again in across the central part of the United States, prayers to everybody. There's a lot more cells that are developing and higher power than possibly on Friday. So just send some prayers out, and we might be here at the ranch a little bit more in the path. So yeah, we're doing a little extra prep today, getting ready for this afternoon's opportunities of cleanliness. So this conversation brought to you by Rocky Creek Ranch. It's the site of the June 22nd through the 25th event called Bolt for Freedom. It's a live event we're doing here at the ranch, where we'll have about 25 people, maybe 20 people come out, limited to that amount. So if you'd like to learn more about that, reach out to me and we'll have a conversation. So curious consciousness, what is it that causes us to be curious? I have a very dear friend. If you want to learn more about gratitude, you can go to Gratitude with Dani, DANI.com. And she talks about gratitude, and she's been doing that for three and a half years now. And it's a pretty powerful conversation. You may want to learn more about that and how to bring more gratitude into your life. But one of the things that we challenged each other is on a daily basis to become aware at least 100 times a day, right? And one of the things that would happen is as soon as you become aware, you become curious about this moment, you become curious about this moment, is that you are being aware of certain situations that are happening. And as soon as your awareness happens, one of the first things I would encourage you, one of the first things I would advise you if you were my student, but you're not my student, so I would never say this to you, but if you were, I would say this. When you become aware of the situation, it has a frequency to it. It has a frequency. The awareness, the curiosity of what you're being curious of, listen carefully, has a frequency. What changes the frequency is the way we interpret it. Is anything either good or bad? Nothing is neither good nor bad. It just is. It's the way we interpret, and we give that frequency meaning. It's what we are choosing to become aware of. Many of us are aware of certain things. And how many of you like getting cut off in traffic, where you got to kind of pump the brakes a little faster than you, not a slam on the brakes, and and thank you for that. We'll get this recorded. So click record. There, I had it recorded. There's a little delay there, so we'll see here. So all of these opportunities, see, I'm curious about the comments in the chat, because somebody just said, are we recording episode 1497, April 4th's message of curious consciousness? Well, now we are recording it. So there's a part of me that could say, I do that all the time. How many of you do that? How many of you bring that awareness to your, this happens all the time to me? How many things that are not positive do you bring an awareness to? Your awareness says, this happens to me all the time. How many of you, when good things happen to you, you say, you won't believe it? See, that's your curiosity. That's your awareness. When you bring that curiosity and that awareness to a situation, you change its meaning. Is this making sense? Drop a C in the chat if it's making sense. Wait a minute. Sense is S and C is, what is he talking about? Curiosity. And here's the thing we're told. What killed the cat? Didn't curiosity kill the cat? So what do we have wired into us if we learn that as children? What do our parents say? No, just don't be curious. Just stay in your lane. How is your brain wired for curiosity? Isn't that fascinating? Let me learn more about that. I wonder if that's going to serve me. How many of us have learned some great things that don't serve us? How many of you have learned how to eat a half gallon of ice cream and you without your throat freezing? How many of you have learned so many things that they just don't serve you? See, the question is what was the curiosity? What was the awareness that brought you to that moment? So how do we become aware of this? Well, you start by becoming aware of things. Let me ask you this. How does your body feel right now? If you are required, if it is necessary to take a pause to just scan your body, let's go ahead and do that for just a second. Just literally, just scan your body. Just imagine if there was a hula hoop, a ring around you of awareness, and then it started at the top of your head, and every place there was a discomfort, it stopped for just a second. And the hula hoop of gratitude, the hula hoop of healing, just sent this pure white healing light all through around your body, and adjusted and brought that part of your body back into homeostasis. Did he just use like homeostasis? Did he just use a 4-syllable, 5-syllable word? Because I'm not sure if homeo is 2 syllables or one. Are you aware? So allow that hula hoop, allow that ring of awareness just to slowly lower over your body. Does it stop at your shoulders? Does it stop at the back of your neck? Does it stop around your lungs? Are your lungs carrying some grief? Is there some stress in your lungs? Do your kidneys hurt a little bit? The lower back, you're coccyx, right? I remember when we learned that in grade school. How many of the boys just giggled? We're talking about a coccyx. How about your thighs? How about your hip bones? How about your knees? How about your calves and your ankles? See, this awareness just brought you curiosity. And in this awareness, see, when you become aware, you have a choice. If you don't have a choice, you're literally a slave. Think about it. If you don't have a choice, if you don't give yourself options, having one choice is not an option. There is no choice if you only have one. If you have two, that's not options. That's a this or a that. And there's usually, how many of us know the phrase, I got to pick the lesser of two, doesn't say angels. I got to pick the lesser of two evils. Just making sense? See how we wire ourselves? We wire ourselves to be less than. Our curiosity keeps us from being more than the moment. See, if you're more than the moment, guess what happens? If you're more than the moment, what happens? If you are more than the moment, how do you feel? You feel like you have space. See, we don't have enough margin in our life. The people who I work with directly, people who are part of Dangerous Consciousness, they learn to have a little bit more margin in their life when dealing with me, because I'm not always on time. I don't always remember all of the small things. I'm focused on the big things. Sometimes I forget some of the little details. And there's a margin that needs to be created if you're going to continue to hang out with me that says I need to address this. And sometimes the things, when I'm given free time, I thought we were going to do this. And when I'm given free time, can you learn how to use the time that's available in this moment? If you missed an appointment, how many of you would go do some bad habits? And when I say bad habits, how many of you would become aware of that? This isn't happening, so I can get to go do this. Instead of taking that same amount of time and going into meditation, going into a quiet solitude, we always fill the space. How many of us know that we always fill the space? What is your space being filled with? Is it being filled with things that you can become curious about? Things you can become aware of? How many of you have drop an M in the chat if you've ever had an appointment, somebody missed an appointment with you? Oh my God, good. I can go get 5 more things done. If all of a sudden, so you got to ask yourself, if somebody missing an appointment, gives you space to go do 5 more things. One of the 2 things, one of the either the appointment or the 5 things had more value. If your life is so absolutely jam-packed that you have stuff to do, let me ask you this. If Friday you were in the path of these storms, how many of you, your schedules changed immediately? And those of you in the Northeast, please be prepared, because on Wednesday, supposedly these storms are supposed to be in your area, specifically the Cleveland area. So if all of a sudden now storms change and things drive you to a particular awareness, why do we always become aware when things get challenging, when things get tough, when things get bad? And we say things like, you won't believe what happened when things go good. It's understanding how you adjust the volume of your curiosity. Are you curious? Let me ask you, here's a silly question. I know, here's a silly question. Are you curious about your wealth program? Are you curious about your health program? Are you curious about your relationship program? See, you're all operating under a current health program. You're all operating under a current wealth program. Whether it's designed by you or somebody else, that's not the point right now. The point is, are you curious about it? What 3 things did you change yesterday? What 3 things did you radically address yesterday that would allow you the opportunity to have more? See, we keep going along in incremental conversations, and we keep being forced to be curious about things that don't serve us. In my world, don't serve us. Algorithms don't serve me. Understanding algorithms don't serve me. Understanding how the human mind operates, reacts, and responds, that serves me. That serves me. Understanding human nature, understanding the power of language, understanding the power of words, understanding what causes people to be curious and cautious. See, how many of us have been taught that we need to be cautious, and that's the only level of curiosity that we allow ourselves to experience? What could you be curious about today? What could you actually be curious about today? What thing, as it relates to your wellness, could you learn more about a particular nutritional? Could you learn more about CBD? Could you learn more about L-arginine? Could you learn more about ketones? Could you learn more about water, highly alkalized water, and what it does for your body? Could you learn how to detox with maybe distilled water? Could you learn how to you've heard of all of these things, and how many of us, when we hear something, say, I've heard about that before. I've heard about that before. Just saying. If you've heard about it before, what kept you from investigating it further, from not just hearing about it to knowing about it? Many of you hear yourself say your goals. Many of you hear yourself say your mission statements. Many of you hear yourself say your wants, your dreams, your wishes, your desires, your I have to haves, and then you don't investigate it. Some of you have goals that I'm 99% sure that many of you had dreams to be someplace 5 years ago, that this is the place you arrived at, that this is probably a little bit behind where you wanted to be. How do I know this? This is called human programming. You're programmed to set goals 5 years ago, and then incrementally you are forced to limit them, to reduce them, to keep them from being something you get curious about. Because if you become curious about the elevation of your soul, the elevation of yourself, the elevation of your success, you know what happens? People get ticked off. They say, have you lost your mind? And you didn't lose your mind. They lost you in their mind. They lost they have this story running of you of what they believe your incremental growth is. And if you don't believe this, we are this radio receiver. How many of us know that we're this radio receiver and radio transmission? And if you have a whole bunch of people who see you in a particular light, who see you in a particular way, they're not curious about your future. How many people do you have who are curious about your future? See, if they're not curious about your future, they lock in a program, and it's a math problem. It literally becomes a math problem. You got 30 people who love you, think of you, 30 friends, 5 close friends who are influential in your life, and they influence you to stay stuck. How's that side thing going? How's that wellness product that you have? How's this thing going? How's your online class going? And you become embarrassed by it rather than motivated by it. You turn fear into stop instead of into fuel, because you're not curious about your own capabilities. I'm going to ask you a real serious question. You don't need to respond if you don't want to. How many of you are aware that you're capable of more? Drop an M in the chat. You don't have to respond if you choose not to. But if you believe you're worth more, if you believe there's more of you to give, if you believe there's more of you to do, if you believe there's more of you to do this, then I would encourage you to become curious. Curious about what would more look like? What would people say? One of the first things when I mentor people, I ask them, so we're going to go get this goal. We're going to go have this target. We're going to go reach this level of success. My first question to you is who would be jealous? You know what the first thing everybody says is no one. And I say, that's not true. Let's get curious. Let's get curious. I know that's not the song, but now you have the earwig. For those of you born before 1970, you are welcome for the earwig. Let's get curious. Could you imagine what happens if all of a sudden you became curious about your more? And you started to really dream and allow your consciousness to awaken to your more. You allowed your consciousness to awaken to this next evolution, because that's what this is. It's an evolution. And you literally have to make a bolt away from this old story. How many of you feel tethered? How many of you feel tethered to this old story that you have to make it make sense? You have to change it enough so that people are okay with it. You have to get permission to go achieve your success. That's not true. I would beg to differ with you, because the people that would be jealous in your life, they may not even be alive right now. And when I say jealous, these are the people that would give you that backhanded compliment, who would say, oh, must be nice. Oh, you're so lucky. And they just, these words would sit in you and sit in your soul and sit in your spirit and make you feel so absolutely dirty and little and all of this. It's because of your consciousness. It's literally because of the wiring in your body. It's called neuroencoding. If somebody could say something to you and it starts to put a knot in your gut, that's neuroencoding. Your brain hears it, your body responds to it. Your brain hears it, your body responds to it. That's neuroencoding. You have a program that runs when people tell you you're too much. You have a program that runs when people say you're too much. Let that settle in. When you reach out, when you reach for your brass ring, when you reach for that goal, what people are saying to you is that, why are you working so hard? Why are you doing that? That's not who you are. That's not who I know you to be. Are you capable of that? I hope you win. I hope you get it. But in reality, they know that you're not capable. And you pick up on that frequency. It's called the anterior cingulate cortex in the brain. That's the radio receiver and the radio transmission. You send out to them in words. You send out to them in sound, I'm going to be a champion. But in their eyes, they see you not doing anything. So in order to protect you, sometimes it's a default mechanism of the way they love you, is to protect you and say, you're not doing the right activity, so don't hurt yourself. and it shuts down your curiosity. And your consciousness says, but we can do this. Your unconsciousness says, who the hell are they? And you wind up in this fight, in this dialogue at an unconscious level, unconscious, not even subconscious, unconscious level. And you wire in your own defeat. You wire in your own delay. You wire in your own, destruction. And you destroy things around you. Things you love, things you desire, things you want, you destroy them around you so that you are no longer curious. One of the things, if you've ever heard of Pandora's box in mythology, if you've ever heard of Pandora's box, they didn't care about Pandora's box opening. The reason that they didn't want Pandora's box open is because they didn't want man, human, they didn't want the humans, right? These are the gods, Olympia. They didn't want the humans, they didn't want normal mortal man to have access to one key word. Anybody know what the word is? Begins with an H, hope. See, there are people around you that take away your hope. They don't tell you to not use hope, not have hope. They simply take it away. One of the things that I've learned that I am after 50 years of discovery of myself is that I'm a human potentialist. If I were to ask you, how much potential do you have available? How much potential is available to you? What potential could you live at? Every one of you say, I could live at more. You have more potential. If you have more potential, drop a P in the chat. So if you have this potential and you have more potential, then what is keeping you from understanding it? You know you better than anybody else. You know what makes you tick, you know what makes you talk, and you know what makes you explode, and you know what brings you joy, you know what brings you happy, and you avoid it. How many of you have listened to your most favorite song in the last 3 hours? Every morning, I get to play the music I love, and I listen to it every morning. I listen to it every day, all day long. I leave it on in my office. Music does something at a cellular level to you. Are you listening to your favorite music all the time? Go buy yourself a good pair of headphones, earbuds, whatever it is, and put music in your soul. Put things that feed your body into your soul. You want to activate your curiosity. You want to activate your capacity. You want to activate your potential. Go listen to what it is you need to listen to and stop listening to all of the doubters. Stop listening to all of the delayers. Stop listening to all of the people who are destructive to your spirit. It's required that you build your force field of faith, of courage, of joy, of happiness, and be curious about how much pain you can sit in without feeling any pain. I'm not asking you. Too many people have become numb to their greatness. Too many people have become numb to the destruction. And you wind up living this life of just average. And it sucks, and you know it. And there's a part of you that's the unconscious part, like somebody in a coma. You know that you're awake. You know that they're around, and you want to speak to them, and you want to say something to them, and you just can't. Your body won't respond, but your spirit is fully alive. How many times have we heard these stories of people who finally come out of a coma? Well, when you start to become curious, the coma starts to go away. You can't tell me you're not living in a comatose state. Why? Because you keep doing the same thing every day, expecting different results. You keep arguing with the same people every day, expecting different results. And they're not even in the room. They're not even in the room. You have not even advanced your curiosity to say, who else is available to me? Who else is available for me? Who wants to show up in my life to serve me? See, because you have been wired, you have been programmed that if somebody serves you, they want something from you. That's been your defense mechanism. That's what keeps you from being curious of people who really want to serve you. And it's odd. It's really odd that there's people out there that want to serve you. It's never happened to me before. Well, I'm guessing that something shifted in your life that these people could actually show up. How many of you have found somebody on social media you say, I really like them? Have you reached out to them? I really think that, boy, they really sing my song. Be curious, reach out to them. I promise you, there's a lot fewer people reaching out to people who are people of pure influence than you would think. So when you become curious, it's really lighting off a fire that allows you to start to see things in this room of darkness called delay, in this room of darkness that you sit in called destruction. See, sometimes the destruction around us is so big, we just want to close our eyes. And therefore, we don't see it. We feel it, and we think by closing our eyes, it keeps us from feeling it. It does not. Some of you can't sleep at night. It's because you haven't allowed your curiosity to work towards your favor. You haven't allowed your curiosity to work in your flavor. What is the flavor of your curiosity? Did he just say flavor? Yeah, what's the flavor of your curiosity? What's the thing that excites you most to learn more about? And I'm not talking about scrolling an X or somebody else who's got more whatever it is, and you're scrolling them. You say you even set up a persona on Facebook so that you could scroll them, or on Instagram so that you could scroll them, and they don't know you're scrolling them. That's probably not a good level of curiosity. So how do we shift this? You start in the moment. It takes some meditation. It takes some quiet time. It takes asking the question, what am I aware of in this moment? I promise you, when you start to become aware, you will realize all of the shiitake that's totally around you, that needs to be evacuated, that needs to be eliminated, that needs to be shifted. And I'm talking about, there's some really just absolutely crap stuff that's going on in your life that you've become so numb to. Curiosity takes courage. Curiosity takes creativity. And as you become more curious, something will happen. And when you become more curious, the thing that happens is your level of gratitude. You think you're grateful now. When you start to become aware, your level of gratitude, you will see instantly the shallowness of your gratitude. Sorry, that's just the reality of becoming curious. You will realize how ungrateful you are for certain things in your life. You say, no, I say thank you. Thank you is not gratitude. Gratitude is that it's already done. When do you say thank you? When something is done. When you sit in gratitude, everything is done. When you sit in gratitude, everything is done. And it's done in your favor. It's why most people can't be grateful, because they say thank you to things that aren't good in their life, instead of saying, I choose that no more. It's the power of your archetypes. And so if you want to be curious about the QLQ in your life, the quantum linguistic question. Be curious about the question that you could ask yourself, who do I become when I awaken my pure, true curiosity? Take some time and answer that question. Your life will change forever. Not because of me, because of you. Join me in DC Consciousness, Dangerous Consciousness. You can join me on the DC waiting list. The community is open for about another 45 minutes till this call ends. If you want to join us in Dangerous Curiosity to hear conversations like this on a regular basis, trainings like this on a regular basis, being able to ask me questions privately, one-on-one, you can have these conversations. And then you can go to finallyconscious.com. So 45 minutes, that's what's left. Then you'll have to wait a whole nother month. I appreciate you tons. I'm your head brain training, brain scrambling misfit. I'll see y'all where? I'll see you at the next conscious, curious moment. Till then, bye for now. And Facebook, YouTube, love you tons. Appreciate you. Stop live stream. I'll see y'all where?